Hi, it's Joe Morgan with the Tech Leader Spotlight podcast, where we interview tech leaders to learn about their journey and leadership lessons learned along the way. This show is brought to you by the No Regret Money Plan, created for smart tech professionals who know they're doing well, but aren't certain if it's enough. We help you invest cash wisely, make the most of stock awards, minimize your tax bill, and create clarity and confidence so you can spend less time worrying and more time living the life you want. If you'd like more information about that, look me up, Joe Morgan at Best Financial Life. Today on our podcast, we have Gretchen Braun, who is a digital product manager at First Horizon Bank. Gretchen is an experienced leader who specializes in digital strategy in the financial services arena. Thank you for joining us, Gretchen.
Hi, Joe. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So let's start with that phrase, digital strategy in the financial services arena. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, so I have about 10 years of experience being a product manager. And throughout my career, I've worked on transforming mobile apps and online banking experiences. So to me, that just means making an experience that a customer can really enjoy and making sure that we're just staying up to date on all of the trends out there. Because as you know, technology changes every day, especially in the financial world.
Great. And so focus on mobile apps. So I imagine there's a lot of security and there's a lot of things, you mentioned the user experience, super important. And not only that, a very fast changing world, I would imagine. Is that right?
Oh, yes, definitely. I mean, I feel like every other day I'm getting updates from Apple to update my security and my system. So all of those changes also pass down to mobile applications. So we also have to keep up to date with all of the trends going on, the latest security, and also just having fun features out there. So as our phones are getting better, there's also more things that you can do with those phones and just having a lot more available at your fingertips. So just making your everyday banking, your everyday life a little bit easier.
Yeah, that's great. My favorite thing about the mobile banking app is being able to deposit checks. It's like
Oh,
so
yes.
huge.
Yep, and that's top of mind right now because that's what we're working through, so I'm glad to hear that that's something that you use a lot.
Yeah, I don't want to go to the bank.
No.
So this podcast is all about leadership in the tech space. And so let me just ask you, what does leadership in tech mean to you?
I think that leadership in general is just someone that can really rally your team around you, get them excited to work on whatever your goal is, and also just understand what you're working on. So I think specifically in technology, like I mentioned, it's moving so quickly all the time, so our priorities can shift really quickly. And I think a good leader is the one that makes sure that they're communicating all those changes, and if your team is working on something and then priorities shift, just explaining the why behind that decision, getting them excited to keep working on it, and just in the end, just making sure that whatever the vision and the goal at the end of the project is communicated effectively.
That's great. So what I heard was a lot of the top-down stuff, right? Like what's the overall
Mhm.
objective? And the leader, interprets that in such a way that the team can accept it and work on it and move forward uh, and accomplish what they need. What are some of the challenges that come up in doing that?
I think some of the challenges is just knowing exactly what information needs to be communicated because I don't think everything that you're hearing needs to be passed on. So you kind of have to filter that down and figure out what exactly your team needs to know. And then also just making sure that whatever you're hearing from your team as well is also communicated up. I think that communication should happen both ways and it shouldn't just be from top down. You should also make sure that the voices on your team are being heard and making sure that that's also being passed on to your leaders.
Yeah, that's great. I love so a lot of bottom down, but also I'm sorry, a lot of top down, but the
Mhm.
bottom up really needs to work as well. And it can be super important and the communication can be challenging too. So the teams you work on, I don't necessarily want to talk about specifics, but I'm just curious,
Mhm.
how big of a teams do you work on and what are the challenges that come involved with that, whether it's a big team or a small team?
Yeah, so I've worked on a variety of different team sizes. There's definitely challenges with a bigger team and a smaller team. So I'll just talk about my team now, which is on the smaller side. We have about 5 developers. And I think one of our biggest challenges that we're facing and working through right now is just being spread across the world. So with COVID, we had a lot of people being able to work from home, and we were because of that, able to hire people across the world and be able to work together. So I think one of the issues that we're facing now is just being able to find times to meet together, making sure that everyone's able to be productive whenever they're working, even if it's not in the same time zone as everyone else. And I think another challenge that we face is just having the proper workload. So if you have a bigger team, making sure that everyone has the proper amount of work and they're also able to use their skill set to their best advantage. So assigning them work that they're really going to be able to shine in instead of having something that they might struggle more with. And on a smaller team, also making sure that people aren't overwhelmed with too much work and making sure that they have time to really focus on their work and not just rush through everything and pick up more and more stories.
Yeah, I love that you guys are, or the impression you're giving is that you guys are trying to make this work with the
Hmm.
the diverse team location. So many companies out there are just want people in the office, and I see that as like a very old school poor management skill, indicator. If I didn't phrase that well,
Hmm.
but it's like, if you can manage people, if you're a really good manager, and you get, and maybe manager is not the right word, maybe it is leader, and you can get the right amount of work out of people and have the employees happy and have the company happy and all of that, you shouldn't necessarily have to be in the same room, I wouldn't think.
Right. I definitely agree. And that's also, we're a camera on company, which is something new for me coming from my old company. And I just think that that has made such a difference.
So
And
I'm
just
sorry,
being able
what
to
what
talk
is
to
that?
people.
What's a camera on company? What is that?
That just means in meetings, we keep our camera on so that you can
Ah,
actually talk to people and see what they're doing. I feel like it just helps you really relate to them more as a person instead of just being behind screens all the time. So I think that that has really affected the culture in a really good way.
yeah, for sure. That is so interesting. So keeping the camera on in meetings. Now, what about when people
Yes.
aren't in meetings? How do you manage that?
We have a Teams chat that we're always keeping up to date. So whenever people come up with questions or issues, or if they aren't sure about anything, we're very active on there. So I think that that also helps as well. And then I actually do go into an office every day. And I think that that helps me as well, just being with the other product owners and product managers at my company. And some of our architects, some of the developers are there. So I do think that it helps a bit to be in the office and having that face to face interaction, and instead of having to type a chat and explain something, just going over to someone and being able to talk. So I do like kind of a mix of working with people online, being able to have people in different time zones and still be able to work with them, but then also having some face-to-face interaction.
Yeah, interesting. Let me ask you this, kind of a dream question. What would be your
Yeah.
dream technology to have to make your job better, to make leadership easier to do?
Oh, that's a good question. I think that having that face-to-face interaction is really vital, but also having some kind of a collaboration tool. We've been using a couple different ones, and I think that just being able to all be able to put thoughts down together, whiteboard together, put down your ideas, and then have that kind of like summed up at the end, maybe using AI or some kind of other technology where it just sums up everyone's thoughts and just having action items at the end of the meeting. So maybe a combination of having camera, FaceTime, having a whiteboarding session, and then a notes taking app that summarizes everything would be amazing.
Well, I think you're going to have that pretty soon. There's a lot of
Oh, yeah.
companies trying to do that sort of stuff. That's great. Well, thank you for your thoughts on leadership. Now, one of the things that's going on the market today is there's a lot of turmoil in the tech industry, a lot of layoffs across tech companies in particular, and then a lot of job openings as well. And I know just from talking to people, there's a lot of talent out there that are looking for positions, and so a lot of just sort of stuff moving around. I'm curious. One of the questions I ask everybody that's on the podcast is, in the moment while you're working, like while you have a job, what can you do to make yourself more resilient should layoffs come your way? Because we all know layoffs come out of the blue. Nobody really, almost never expect to get
Mhm.
layoffs. You don't get an indicator until it happens. So what is it that people can be doing?
Yeah, so I'm not sure if I'm the best person to ask or the worst person, but I actually was laid off earlier this year. So I think that one thing that I wish that I did more of is just using more opportunities to network and to really talk to people at your company, outside of your company. And I always thought of networking as something that I didn't want to do and just you're asking people for things all the time or it's fake. And what I learned is networking is just about making friends in your industry and being inquisitive about what other people are doing. And I think that I just wish that I did more networking ahead of time. So then whenever I was laid off, I had a better network just to reach out to and people would reach out to me. So I think that I just learned that networking is very important and also expanding your education a bit. So maybe do some training in your off time or picking up new skills, maybe something that you don't do in your every day-to-day work, just kind of being more inquisitive, learning something new, or even if you have something that you're doing at work and you aren't the best at it yet, maybe kind of brushing up on those skills and learning something new. I think my two takeaways were to network more and then take more courses.
Yeah, that's great. On the networking, do you find that easy to do now that you're focused on it, or are there difficulties in doing that as well?
I think at first it was really difficult for me, but I've definitely learned that networking is a skill that you can get better at and you can work on. And I think that just whenever I started looking for more opportunities to network, I realized how many there were. And just going to them, it just got a lot easier after a little bit. And you kind of learn your elevator pitch whenever you meet someone, you learn what kind of questions people ask. So I do think that it's hard and a little awkward at first, but then you realize it's not easy for anyone really. So
Yeah.
as you learn it and meet new people, you just kind of realize that it's like meeting new friends and it gets a little
Yeah.
bit easier the more you do it.
Yeah, interesting. I have a bit of a similar story. I was laid off 11 years ago, and I was in the same position. I'd never really networked, never gone to association meetings, none of that. Of course, I'm in a different industry, but it was really hard, to figure that out. So I think that's a fantastic tip. And expanding education. That what's great in tech is there's so many opportunities to do that, and so people should
Yeah.
really, yeah, take advantage of that. And I think they do. That's
Hmm.
that's that's a nice thing about tech folks. They're always wanting to learn, always wanting to expand. Good
Yeah, and
stuff.
there's a lot of free resources out there. So I think that I just assumed that everything you had to pay for, you had to go back to college. But
Mm,
there's a lot of on LinkedIn, they have a lot of opportunities. Verizon is doing a program right now that has free opportunities. Coursera, like there's just a lot out there that's free to take.
yeah, just got to commit the time and the energy to do it.
Yes.
Yeah. So, well, I think I might know the answer to this question, but if you could go back in time just 5 years and give yourself some advice, what would it be?
Yeah, so definitely going back to the networking, but also 5 years ago is whenever I decided to move from Pittsburgh down to North Carolina. So I think that I would take the advice just to try out something new and not be afraid of being a newbie at something. I think sometimes I just want to be an expert and not look dumb whenever I don't know
Mm,
something. So I think just taking the opportunity to try out something new, do something completely different, and just be a newbie at something, a beginner.
that's great. Thanks so much, Gretchen. I really appreciate your vulnerability and your honesty and your
Of
openness.
course.
Some great tips today.
Thank you.
Just a reminder, this podcast is sponsored by the No Regret Money Plan, where tech leaders gain clarity and control of their finances so they can live out the rest of their life with intention. If you want to know more about us, look me up on LinkedIn, Joe Morgan at Best Financial Life. Thanks again, Gretchen.
Thank you.